Thursday, what chaos? DJ Bean, Pete Blackburn. Pete, I hadn't bet on hockey in a long ass time. I forced myself to bet last night so I wouldn't watch the Oilers because I keep only watching the Oilers and we have to watch other teams.
I know, that's the thing. We were talking about this with somebody else recently, and like we have to force ourselves to watch teams that we don't want to watch sometimes just so that we can be able to talk about them. You bet on the Ducks?
So that's the thing. I just bet on the other team I've been watching constantly. Like, I've watched every Ducks game this season. I can't stop watching the Ducks. It was basically the Oilers and Ducks were on at the same time, and I just bet on the Ducks to split the difference.
You did the dumb thing of being like a late adopter where you bet on the Ducks when they were down. You're like, this team always comes back. So you bet on them. And of course, they didn't come back this time.
They were down 1-0. So I bet on them, I think, plus 380. And they got the shit kicked out of them. And I was watching the game. Like, not only were they down, they had like
8 shots.
6 shots on goal halfway through the game.
Yeah. And like for the next 15 minutes after that, they got the shit kicked
They
out
lost
of them.
8-2 to the Avalanche. It was also the second night of a back-to-back. Like that, it was very clear that if ever they were a game where they weren't going to come back, it was last night. But it was still a fun game to watch. I ended up, when they got out of hand, I just put on the Oilers.
Most of the games last night were pretty good, actually.
Well, let's start with the biggest rivalry in hockey, arguably in sports. There was an Eastern Conference team against a Western Conference team. You don't see this a lot. The Islanders traveling to Vancouver to play the Canucks. Bo Horvat's first game back in Vancouver. And we're going to talk a lot about how fans were acting, how Bo Horvat was acting. But I want to start with how the Canucks were acting, which is winning again. Quinn Hughes, breakaway in overtime. He's having a fucking monster season. Canucks are having a monster season.
A very timely night of 3-on-3 overtime. We had 2 really good overtimes last night on the slate. Right after we had the discussion, hey, is overtime broken? But the Canucks are nasty. And everybody's big question right now is like, when's the regression coming? How big is the regression going to be? Because they have the league's best PDO and like by a pretty significant margin.
I would have guessed that.
And if you don't know what PDO is, it's the combined save percentage and shooting percentage of a team. And typically it falls around like 100, 101. And if a team is well above that, it means that they're getting pretty lucky and they're going to come back down to earth at some point soon. But my big thing on the Canucks is like, sure, they might be getting like a little lucky right now. Probably not going to keep up this pace for the rest of the season.
Mainly offensively.
Correct. But I look at like the pillars that are holding them up right now. Like Elias Pettersson is one of the best forwards in the entire NHL. He's putting together a Hart candidacy right now. Quinn Hughes, one of the best defensemen in the NHL, putting together Norris candidacy right now. Thatcher Demko, one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, putting together a Vezina candidacy right now. I think all 3 of those things can hold. And if you have all 3 of those pillars in at each position, like look at the Tampa Bay Lightning and how good they were for so long. And I think that the Canucks, when their best players play like their best players, they are a team that is absolutely worth taking seriously and can be a contender.
They're almost a full goal over their goals per game last year, which they were top 5 in the NHL goals per game. They had like, I want to say 3, 4, 7 goals per game. And now they're at 4.4 goals a game. They're not going to score 4.4 goals a game, but
the Florida Panthers did it. Florida Panthers did it a couple of years ago.
How'd they do?
Pretty good up until the playoffs.
No, I was going to say, no, they didn't. They were, but they were also, not to like keep doing the thing where we talk about fruitless playoff runs of teams past, but they were a team that like everyone knew was going to get bounced. Like it wasn't going to be right. They were like
play defense.
The darling of the NHL that wasn't going to go anywhere.
They didn't play defense.
But I agree with you. They're going to come back down to earth, probably offensively, but I think that they're still a legitimate team. That's, I mean, God, how many days are we now from? We're 7 days from U.S. Thanksgiving.
That's huge.
And if you don't know, folks, you don't have to play the thing, Sean. I apologize. I said U.S. Thanksgiving, and Sean was like, "You want me to play the thing?"
For this.
If you haven't, go listen to past episodes. There's a animation for when we talk about U.S. Thanksgiving, because if you're an old head, you know that if you're in playoff position come U.S. Thanksgiving, you are making the playoffs. It still kind of does hold up. Like most teams that, like, by far, the majority of teams that are in position at U.S. Thanksgiving end up making the playoffs.
Yeah, there's like an overwhelming percentage. And I think it's like even well before that. I think it's like 2 weeks before U.S. Thanksgiving.
That's like, there's an argument for like November 1.
Yeah, right. The Canucks right now are kind of lighting the leaderboards on fire because Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, and JT Miller all tied for the NHL lead in points with 26 apiece. And then also Filip Hronek set the NHL record for the hardest shot ever in a game with 107.9 miles per hour on his power play goal last night.
Do we do wanking gestures on this podcast?
You can. I think that if you
I thought about tossing one on that.
If you do it, you have to pair it with like a verbal wanking gesture. Yeah, because we were also available on Spotify and all podcast platforms. There you go. There's the big old wank.
The horse.
I'm glad that you are you're in that camp, because I'm also in that camp. I don't fucking trust those stats.
No.
There's no way. Like, there's absolutely no way that was the hardest shot ever recorded in NHL history last night.
As soon as Zdeno Chara finishes this morning's marathon, he's getting back out there and just fucking blarsting one. Smoking it by 10 miles an hour.
It's like it's the home run length in a baseball game.
Where,
especially when it hits something, it hits like an obstruction, and it's like that one was going to go 450 feet.
Or how about the ones from like 100 years ago where they're like, this is the third longest home run of all time. It was hit 575 feet before we had electricity.
Did you measure with a tape measure?
And like, I've been in this business for a little while. I know who gets paid, which people in the production get paid, and which people maybe don't get paid as well. If you've actually got someone on your production staff who is calculating and like putting, what is that? Sean, would that be physics?
I mean, I think the basis of it would be like the angle and the velocity and stuff, like for home runs and stuff like that. So yeah, physics.
You need someone wearing a fucking lab coat on the stat. Like, you got to have somebody, if we're to trust it, making like $500,000 to sit there and be like, oh shit. Yeah, that would have gone whatever.
So you guys just don't trust computers?
They
Is
do
that
it in
basically what
real
you're
time,
saying?
and there's just like a
boop.
Especially
when they throw it on like the replay, like they get it by like the time the replay shows.
I mean, like with home runs and stuff like that, like there's just like cameras and sensors all over the place. I trust it only because when we've seen before where they're like, that shot went 81 miles per hour and they throw it up there, and it's like, okay, if they were lying about it, they would inflate those stats and not just show really average stats.
I do have a perhaps admission to make, and even concession of a point. When you just said you guys don't trust computers, I don't know about you, Pete. I hadn't considered that. I was like, oh yeah, they have computers do it.
Yeah, and I know
I truly was thinking it was like a group of people have gotten together, and one of them has to be really smart.
But
that's what it used to be for sure, which is why I'm like the old ones.
That's why I don't. That's why I don't trust like the Filip Hronek had the hardest shot in an NHL game in history, because like they just started implementing the puck tracking data,
That's
and like
fair.
it's getting much better. So maybe it was 107.9 last night, but I don't necessarily believe that that's the hardest shot ever taken.
That's
like 5 years ago, there could have been 16 shots that were harder.
And I'm also the biggest believer in the hockey player 10 years ago just isn't as good as the hockey player now.
Same.
And I say all the time, you're right, equipment, coaching, training, diet, and everything. Like we're going to talk about Gretzky in a little bit, but like McDavid is the best hockey player of all time because he's the one doing it now and has the benefit of all those things. Patrick Mahomes is the earmuffs, certain fans. is the best quarterback of all time because he's
he's
the
not.
one doing shit that we've never seen
fuck
anybody
He
do.
is. Shohei Ohtani's the greatest baseball player of all time.
Shohei
I agree
Ohtani
with that
is
one.
obviously the greatest baseball player of all time. But where I do say, might give it to the old guys, is shit like hardest shot. Because I know that there's a lot of coaching and training that goes into that. But at the end of the day, give me a dude that's just lifting weights over his head and like lifting up cars and shit. And those people are Al McInnes and Zdeno Chara and those guys of yesteryear. I am trusting Al McInnes to beat up whoever is taking the hardest shot right now. He's going to come in with his Sherwood stick.
That's what I was going to say.
Fucking go ham.
That's
And
my one pushback is like the sticks themselves. Like you were talking about it the other day when you see the still shots of how just the torque
whip,
on those
yeah.
sticks. Like I feel like back then, if you tried to shoot a shot that hard, your stick would just snap.
We're going to a CCM event tonight, and we have talked about it a little bit off the podcast. We're all so excited for individual reasons. I'm excited to see a bunch of cool shit. Pete, you're going to see, or we're all going to see like some like trick shot artists and people that you know in that space. Sean and I also have talked about like how much stuff we come home with after this.
Merch.
I would like to talk to somebody there about flex though, because I do think it is getting out of control based on those stills where the flex on the stick is just out of control.
We got the flex police over here.
I'm flex police, and I only want Sherwood sticks. No.
No disrespect to Philip Roenick, but yeah, you're a fraud.
You didn't.
You're
Like
a fraud.
You didn't.
Well, I
you
can't
didn't take
confirm,
the
but
hardest shot
this
ever.
comment said that the official data now is saying it's just over 100. So like, I think especially like the real time stuff is. You don't know. Like stats always change. Like they'll say a home run was this long,
Yeah,
and then like
stat corrections.
they'll correct it later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say
You can't do a stat correction after you said that something set a record. Like that, you're just not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do
You're
that.
like at that point, like you got to just like start like killing people. To, like
You got to eat it, dude.
you got to cover it up. Do whatever you have to do. When you watch hardest shot competitions and stuff like that, and also tonight, I think there's going to be like some target stuff, and I'm really excited to do that to see how many it takes us to even hit one. I would always love watching the hardest shot competition at the All-Star game, but I think I can admit now, when you watch the hardest shot competition, it's just like they all look the exact same.
I know
but every time you're like, whoa, I bet that was hard. Oh, that wasn't.
Honestly, the hardest shot competition is so embarrassing for like me as a viewer because somebody will fire it up and it'll be like, damn, that one was hot. And it'll be like 86.3 miles per hour.
You are now disqualified.
And I'll be like, fuck, shit.
Yeah, we should do some hardest shot like
Raw
Pepsi
dogging?
challenge shit. Show people 2 hardest shot entries and be like, which one was
That's the new
harder?
eye test. Does it pass the eye test?
We got to do some eye test stuff like that. That's very, very good. Now we're cooking with gas. The Canucks, though, man, I think they're for real. Let me ask you this. As I said, Bo Horvat's return to Vancouver. Boo-hooing before the game. A lot of boos going on. Boo-hooing from Horvat's face.
Mm-hmm.
Crying. Former captain in Vancouver. Makes all the sense in the world.
My face was damp, boy.
Was also booed when he touched the puck, which I think I think there's a lot of respect in that. Like I love when the player is welcomed back pre-game, and then once the game starts, it's like you understand this is business, though.
Yeah, I do. I like that.
It's in Goodfellas, you know, when Henry's given the money at the end, and he says, "Now I do have to turn my back on you."
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's like, hey, I for all you've done, I want to give you this. But now, once the official goes to center ice and says his mic'd up thing and drops the puck, this is over.
I absolutely respect the hell out of that. I think that the Vancouver Canucks fans are some of the best in hockey. I think that I loved every way that they approached the Bo Horvat return last night. But there is one thing that was very, very weird from the Canucks fans.
I don't know if it's like how bad it is.
It's weird, man.
It's a talker for sure. We're getting weird across the board.
It's weird. There were a good amount. You said it was like a good amount, right?
There was a shot of as Bo Horvat was having his little tantrum before the game. There was a shot of a bunch of fans holding up signs, and they were wearing Bo Horvat Islanders jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
So is it weird to wear the jersey of your former player at your team's home game? And Sean's head is about to fall off from how strongly he is nodding yes.
This is a conversation I had actively with one of my fellow producers in Phoenix. We have very strict rules on what jerseys you are and are not allowed to wear at sporting events.
Whoa.
So I'm very passionate.
You're
about
one
this
of
topic.
those.
I don't know if I like the rules for what you're allowed to do, but I do think it's weird behavior in this instance, especially because like Bo Horvat wasn't the only good player on those Canucks teams. Like I could see it if like Bo Horvat was keeping that team afloat for many years or whatever, and you're just like a lifelong Bo Horvat fan, you'll support him for the Islanders. But like there are so many other good players on the Canucks that you can like get a jersey for and just like wear the Canucks jersey. It's super weird to wear that Islanders jersey to the Canucks home game.
So I think you can get the jersey.
I agree.
You get the jersey and maybe you don't wear it there.
But wearing it to a Canucks game when you're a Canucks fan, like the jersey of the other team is weird.
Now, if this were the early 2000s, people wouldn't be accusing us of being a Bruins podcast. They'd be accusing us of being an Avalanche podcast because Avalanche jerseys became so commonplace in Boston. You were allowed, like you would go to a Bruins game and people would wear Avalanche jerseys in support of Ray Bourque and eventually in celebration of Ray Bourque that he won a Stanley Cup. And in 2001, they had a parade for him when they won the Stanley Cup. And it was very weird. But
low point in Boston sports history.
Boston had a Stanley Cup parade for Ray Bourque, and that was really weird. And then a few months later, the Patriots mercifully won the Super Bowl, and people kind of put that all behind them. But I do think there are some circumstances where if your franchise is sad enough,
that's what I'm saying.
You can acknowledge that, like, we're really sad.
Yes, yeah.
Like, we're just going through something. I'll tell you what, Sean's getting in his exercise this morning. He was doing this before, and now he's doing this.
I have rooted for sad franchises my entire life, and you would never catch me dead wearing something different. The thing that really always bothers me is, like, I went to plenty of Arizona Diamondbacks games, and, like, you would go, and then it'd be like Diamondbacks Cubs, and someone would be wearing a Red Sox jersey, and you're like, what are you doing here? Especially when it's like a Kurt Schilling jersey, and it's like, what point are you trying to make?
I'm okay with that. That just means you're just a fan of the sport.
It just means that you're a right-wing fanatic.
Yes. Yeah, like the sad thing is what I was getting to, like where if that was the only good player, it's kind of just like I'm with this guy now. I'll go with him anywhere. But I feel like I don't have many rules on jerseys. Like anybody who knows me, you can see our jersey collections here. Like,
you're also very big against gatekeeping in hockey, which I think
correct.
No, I think is like a very good use of your energy.
There are I get people on Twitter all the time that are like, how do you consider yourself a Bruins fan when you wear a Sabres logo? They're in the same division. It's like, they're not rivals.
That is a very Boston specific opinion.
Yeah. If somebody ever said to me about a hockey thing,
how can you wear
how do you ever consider be like, these aren't this is not where I use my consideration points. Yeah. I consider other things. Hockey, I just go to be stupid.
I only have two teams where I feel like I will never wear their logo. And it's the Yankees. We'll never don a Yankees thing, and the Canadians.
When the Canadians made the run to the Stanley Cup final, I was pushing for that team so hard, along with our friend Jim Murray, who is like the quintessential miserable Boston sports fan, loves the Bruins more than anything, hates the Canadians more than anything. And there were a lot of people in Boston who just like hockey that loved the Canadians were making this run, because also I think a lot of people in Boston maybe were
rooting for Boston, Montreal.
Well,
that's why I was rooting for the Canadians.
I know. I think just like missed the Canadians being relevant.
Oh,
and they're like,
know,
if the Canadians
absolutely.
can be good, then maybe there's a little more juice in this rivalry. And I'm not truly, it's like I'm not really a Bruins fan. Certainly not the way that you are.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of guys on the team, and I like being around a winning product and everything. But if the Bruins lose a game, it's not ruining my life. That said, I was pulling hard for the Canadians when they were making that run. And there was a day that I went out with a bunch of friends and I'd been sent a bunch of cool Canadians stuff. And the Canadians were playing that day. And I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I put on a Canadians shirt and I did the thing where I was leaving my apartment where I like looked in front of the mirror like 55 times and like started to change back and change. It felt so weird. I ended up going out wearing the Canadian stuff. I felt self-conscious wearing Canadian stuff
I'll
in
never
Boston the entire day. And I have a sick Canadians hat on our set that whenever I put it on, I'm just like, this looks so fucking weird. I can't do it.
After the Bruins got their ass kicked in the Winter Classic at Foxborough,
Great experience.
I found a Canadians Winter Classic jersey, which was like the powder blue jersey that they wore in that game. I found it. It was like a PK Subban jersey. I found it at like a Lids locker room for maybe like $35. And I stood at that rack for maybe 20 minutes debating on whether I should buy it or not, because I love that jersey. I liked PK Subban at the time, and I was like, can I do it as a Bruins fan? Can I pull the trigger on this? Can I wear this jersey? I ultimately decided no. I think at this point in my life, I would have bought it just to like hang it in the lockers and not actually wear it. But it was like a real test of whether or not I could do that. And I've decided since that like I can't do that.
One of the biggest misconceptions, by the way, in recent NHL history is that Boston hated PK Subban. Boston,
I'm sure people did.
I mean, like probably like miserable fans who just like hate the opponent always. Like PK Subban was, I'm trying to think of like an equivalent for other sports. Like Peyton Manning would be a bad example. Like Patriots fans were like, Peyton Manning actually sucks. And so like Boston fans, because Marshawn was happening at the time,
there was also no debate about like, is PK Subban better than like Bobby Orr? Because people hated Manning. They're like, is Manning better than Brady?
Right. But like Bruins fans loved PK Subban. Well, and once he started getting traded, they were like,
right,
get him over here.
I think it's very much in the same vein as like you want the Canadians to be good because you like the rivalry. You want them to at least be relevant so that there's some juice in that rivalry. And I think that PK Subban was a great heel for Bruins fans. And I think that is good for the sport. It's good for the rivalry. I'm so glad that the Canadians are sort of relevant again, and there was some juice in that Bruins-Habs game for the first time in years. So, but back to the Horvat thing. I think it's weird to wear that jersey in that specific scenario.
Do you currently, either of you, own any jerseys that you feel weird donning?
Yeah. I have a Houston Astros jersey that I bought prior to the trash cans, and now I'm just like, I feel like that's a statement if I wear it out. And it's like one of the sick, like Nolan Ryan Sunrise, Tequila Sunrise jerseys, and I can't wear that one out.
There's a lot of jerseys that I can't really wear right now because I'm struggling with my weight, so they're too small for me. So maybe
give them to me. Yeah,
Pete and I do have a pretty good. We give each other stuff when we're either sent things that are too big or too small.
Yeah. I own one jersey that I don't think I've ever actually publicly admitted that I own this jersey.
Wow.
And for anybody that knows me, this is a stunning admission.
Aaron, what?
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. I own, not that one. I own a Hockey Canada jersey. I'll admit that I fucking hate Hockey Canada with all my might. But they have some good uniforms, and I own one of them.
They do. It's a really good jersey. The one that I want, if anyone can send it to me, I can't find it. The Canadians lollipop one, or like the candy stripe one.
Oh God, that's disgusting.
One, and everyone made that face at me when it was around.
Disgusting.
When I was in Montreal for probably a hockey thing, and they had that in their pro shop, and I couldn't swing it financially, but I was like, this thing's sick, right? And everybody was like,
never stopped you before.
What's that?
That's never stopped you before.
We have some pro shop content coming.
We are going bankrupt.
Yeah, people keep saying like, what's the budget for like the jerseys on this set? Like, good call. There should be one.
Right.
That's
it's $50.
I can't wait to put that out. I started to now we'll just do this part of the podcast where we just talk to each other about things people don't know. I started to like edit some of the Pro Shop stuff we've done. It's really, really good.
Okay,
we have a Pro Shop series that's Pete's idea that is going to be amazing once it's out in the world. And hopefully we could sell it so somebody could pay for it, because it's for something that we haven't even put out yet. We've invested so much money that no one told us to invest into it. I've invested, quite frankly, I've ingested so much Olipop recently that I'm feeling like a regular boy. My insides are, what does regular degular mean? Have you heard that expression?
No.
I feel like that's something that you possibly haven't heard, and maybe Sean has. Sean, have you heard regular degular?
No, sir.
It's something that it's just people say regular degular.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm regular thanks to Olipop, which is a incredible prebiotic soda that comes in all the flavors you want. Recently, if you've listened to the pod, you know I've been in a long-term relationship with the cream soda.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't had it. And then once I tapped in, I don't know if I've had a different flavor since. It's so good. You're on your lemon lime.
That's right. I love the lemon lime.
Lemon lime, really good. Sean might get a grape tattoo at this point.
About it, yeah.
Sean, you're having so much grape Olipop, you're gonna turn into a grape Olipop.
Yeah, I'm about to look like a girl from Willy Wonka, except grapes instead of a blueberry.
What was her Veruca Salt?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Is that her name?
Sure.
There's also Augustus Gloop.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah. And
there was
Mike
TV.
Mike TV. Yeah, that's right.
Mike TV's a hard name.
And
Mike
it's spelled
TV.
out.
Teevee. Well, you know what I spell out sometimes?
Olipop or chaos.
DRINKOLIPOP. Drinkolipop.com. And I like that you checked the can. You're like, how many L's in Olipop?
I had to check that. I did.
And I put in the code chaos when I'm there.
For how many percents?
For 20% off. And I actually recently I was at 22,000 stores, and I got Olipop at all of them. That's how ubiquitous this beverage is becoming, Pete. It's everywhere. 22,000 stores, more than that, across America. It's so good. It tastes amazing. And it doesn't even have 5 grams of sugar per can. So use code CHAOS on drinkolipop.com on your next order, and you're going to get 20% off. That's chaos on drinkolipop.com. Pete, the kids are at it again.
They are.
Because there's a rotten kid working at the Hockey Hall of Fame, and he told off Wayne Gretzky, right? That was the story? He saw Wayne Gretzky come in, and he said, "We don't take your kind. Get out of here, Wayne."
The great one? I don't think so.
Yeah. So why don't you take a great walk down Yonge Street and get out of here? Is the Hall of Fame on Yonge Street?
I don't know.
We'll
Have you been
find
to the
out.
Hall of Fame? No, but we're going to Toronto later this year.
Are we?
NHL All-Star Game, baby.
That's next year.
What? Well,
yeah.
Is that a 2024
It's
joke?
February, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty. I feel like pretty definitively next year.
Oh, give me a break. When it's this season,
Sean's,
it's this year.
I was going to say Sean's a wise ass, but Sean's an asshole.
Can confirm.
Yeah, fuck off.
Whenever we try to come up with
If you
anything,
try to pull that shit on like December 27th,
No, I am not one of those
will
people.
kill you.
I am not one of those people where it's like, oh, see you next year because it's December 31st. But when you're talking about something that's in February, that's like pretty distinctly next year.
If it's in a 6-month window, it is not next year.
Keep Sean splaining calendars to us, okay?
Yeah.
But a kid did mansplain hockey to Wayne Gretzky, which I
do
love.
we have that clip?
Do we have the clip?
Last time wasn't as memorable. I took my 9-year-old son, who didn't know a lot about hockey, but I said, "You got to come to the Hall of Fame with me." But I said, "I got to put a hat and sunglasses on if we want to get around. There's a lot of kids there." So we're getting around. They got a great interactive part of the Hall of Fame downstairs. And my son says, "Can we get in line? I want to try this." And I said, "Great." So he's 1 for 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 3. He ends up 4 for 5, right? And he goes, "Dad, will you try this?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll try it." I'm 0 for 1, 0 for 2, 0 for 3. And the young kid who was running the line says, "Sir, if you move your hand down the stick a little farther." I was so mad at him, I threw my hat off, and I told my son, "We're running out of here."
I had 2 big takeaways from that thing. And the first one.
Gretzky sucks now.
Well, I already knew that. The first one was that, how does Gretzky's kid, he said that his kid doesn't know much about hockey or like
I respect that. I think that
guy.
sounds like a super cool kid.
I like to imagine they went to the Hockey Hall of Fame and be like, why are they got so many pictures of you, Dad?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, we already kind of knew that Wayne Gretzky sucks at teaching other people hockey from his time with the old Coyotes.
Was it the students though? In defense, like I don't defend
maybe a little bit of A, a little
weird
bit of B.
coaching hires, which that was, but
Por qué no los dos?
could have been the students.
Second takeaway: Wayne Gretzky is just so much better at TV than I thought he would ever be. When they first brought him on for TNT, kind of rolled my eyes a little bit. Was like, they just got him for the name. It's not going to be a great experiment here. And then even in his first year, it was pretty rough at points. You're like, really the only club in the bag here is that they got Wayne Gretzky, and they just keep referring to that. And he wasn't great on TV. He has gotten so much better.
Oh yeah,
from year to year.
We talked about it the other day, right? There's like once the second year hit, it was like, all right, there's something here. He's not as uncomfortable sitting out parts of the conversation, because there were times where they would just talk and then they'd be like, what do you think, Wayne? And he'd be like, oh yeah, they just got to go out, and you just kind of use some canned answer stuff. And now he's like, he knows what he's good at, and he does what he's good at, which is talk about how much food he used to eat during games or tell a funny ass story. And if there's one thing, not the greatest hockey player ever, but the old timer guy, which now Wayne Gretzky is, if there's one thing that person's going to have, it's fucking stories. And I've talked to not great old time hockey players, and they've got a million of those stories, and it rocks. If you ever covered like NHL stuff, my favorite part about covering the NHL was not for like drinking sake, but being at the bar after and just exchanging stories and having everyone's got these cool stories and being like, I hope someday I could have a couple of fun stories like this. And when you get old time hockey players going on funny things that have happened to them, there's no one who does it better. And Gretzky, in addition to being one of the greatest hockey players ever, the greatest hockey player of his time, is now excellent on TV.
Yeah, he's excellent on TV. He's excellent on podcasts, because like it's a comfortable situation for him to tell stories. And I think that he's absolutely settling into that role, like you mentioned, where he knows that he doesn't have to like necessarily be the star of the panel. He doesn't have to chime in on everything. But when he has something to say, he says it. He says it eloquently. He says it very like confidently. It's very easy to watch. It goes down smooth. I'm a big fan of Wayne Gretzky on the panel.
You know what he does is he does an end-to-end rush. He doesn't really get involved in the play too much. And then once he has the puck, I'll use another old-time hockey player. He's Bobby Orr. He just goes from end. He takes it and he'll go and he'll tell a 90-second social clip, and then he like taps out and they all talk amongst themselves for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Would love to get him on this show to tell some stories,
but not yet.
Not yet.
We could probably like hit up Biz and be like, please get us Wayne Gretzky, put in a good word. But I want to keep building his legend on the show. And I know that he already arguably has a bit of a legend.
Wayne Gretzky's legend needs to be built up on this hockey podcast.
But so far, prior to this conversation, the only time we talked about him was how funny is it that he just talks about eating pizza.
Well, I think we should play that up when we get him on the show. Just have a ginormous spread and see how hard he goes.
No, my first question to him would be, did you ever eat during the games? Just to see what he'd say. And he'd be like, one time, Halloween had just passed, and we were at the store, and they had all this leftover candy, and it was very cheap. So I ate the whole bag before the game, and then I scored 13 goals. We'd be like, fucking Wayne.
We have a pretty extensive list of guests that we want to get on currently playing. Obviously, like it's easy to identify the biggest stars in the game
Frank Vetrano again.
Right now. Correct. America's greatest goal scorer. Also, whenever Frank Vetrano doesn't score in a game, you know what it is?
It's anti-Italian discrimination.
That's right, buddy. But beyond current players, like who are the legends? Like, who are the retired legends that we really want to get on the show?
Okay, I don't know if this guy counts because he kind of is broadcastery now, but if we could get Roberto Luongo dicking around with us, that would be fantastic.
He's not broadcastery; he's a front office guy now.
That's right. I'd also like Martin Brodeur.
Okay.
We could also piss off Patrick Waugh. I just want to get old goalies.
I would love to piss off Patrick Waugh.
Yeah.
Maybe get a lawsuit thrown in the mix after he beats the shit out of one of us.
I want Dominic Hasek.
Okay.
Oh, that would be, and that's another one where I kind of give the nod to the old player. I'm pretty sure Dominic Hasek still is the best goalie ever.
No, Tuukka Rask, one of the guys that I want on the show. Tuukka Rask.
That's true. He doesn't know what reverse VH is. He doesn't know what VH is.
He doesn't know what goaltending is. He just, I'm going to run at your feet.
Do you think that if we said, what does VH mean to you? He wouldn't, like, I bet he doesn't even know what Van Halen is. I bet, like, he's so distant from anything that could possibly have anything to do with goaltending.
I do want to say, I think
Tuukka would be good.
There seems like there's recently a resurgence in very aggressive goaltending, pursuing the puck in
Linus the other night.
Exactly. And there was somebody before that. I forget
Nothing
who it was.
for wimps.
But it was like two Hasek type incidents in like a week. I'm a firm believer in goaltenders staying in the crease when it comes to playing the puck behind the net. But when it comes to playing the puck in front of the net, I'm all about that shit.
You know who rocked for that was Beezer. John Van Beesbrook.
Oh, yes.
He was big into, like, what's going on? I can see the puck. I'm going to go get it. And he would just, like, run out, dive at the blue line.
It's like a dog
like,
playing fetch.
Didn't need to do that, bud. That was so cool.
Tuukka Rask, Keith Tkachuk, and Joe Thornton are my guys.
Keith Tkachuk is that's a possibility for us.
Yeah.
I shot
on the list.
Don't ask why. I have his number. Shot him a text recently, and he was like, "Not right now."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Sounds like you're coming on the Pard, buddy. Just not right now." I'd like to get PK Subban and try to get some of the current ESPN off him.
No comment.
Why?
PK Subban's broadcasting career has been a massive disappointment to me.
Oh, so you're saying no comment because you don't want him on?
I think that he would be better in this setting.
That's what I'm saying. I want to kind of recalibrate him.
Yeah, okay.
Just be like, I'm
down to try.
You're a cool, funny, super nice dude. You'd be good on a podcast.
He's not my favorite Subban.
Malcolm's
my boy.
Malcolm's the GOAT.
Malcolm's pretty nice guy. Very nice guy.
I saw him in a goalie fight one time. Awesome.
Really?
Yeah, in the AHL.
I saw him sing a
Crunch
national
versus
anthem.
Rochester Americans.
That's right.
We've played video games together. He's just the best dude.
Are the Oilers back? Because they come back, beat the Kraken last night. Evander Kane, hat trick, electric performance. They've won 3 straight, 2 of which are under Chris Knobloch.
Mm-hmm,
Shout out Jay Woodcroft for getting that winning
getting
streak
the party
going.
started.
Yeah, people forget. Do you feel that they're back because they were 1-8-0 in their previous 9 games? Or is this just a spark?
Well, I mean, like Connor McDavid seems to be back.
Yes.
Sort of. Like when he's not covered by anybody, he's definitely back.
And like on the ice at the same time as Draisaitl.
Adam Larson made the biggest business decision I've ever seen in my life.
So much respect there.
Just completely abandoned any idea of covering Connor McDavid on the rush.
Good.
Wild move. But yeah, like when McDavid's playing well, Draisaitl's playing well, Evander Kane's playing well, Zach Hyman, like they're going to have a fighting chance. They're going to score a bunch of goals. They're going to give themselves an opportunity to win games. That's never been in question.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the discussion, like, are the Oilers going to win games? For sure. But are they going to play like near perfect hockey for the next 5 months? I don't think so. And
they've been playing playoff hockey since mid-November.
Like,
so that's the accent people use to talk about hockey.
I'm not writing them off. I'm not saying they're dead. I'm not saying that this is like not something that we're not going to see in the future down the line. I just don't believe that they can do this consistently for months at a time. They're going to fall apart for another month somewhere down the line.
Kraken, meanwhile, have lost 5 of 6. And to tie into an earlier conversation, whose situation is most upset by the Canucks being good? Because there are a lot of teams in the Pacific that had designs on things going better for them than they currently are. Oilers and Kraken right now, chief among them.
Yeah, the Kraken are an interesting case because a lot of people, I think particularly our friend Ryan Lambert, I had a discussion with him at the end of last season. He was like, "Oh no, the Kraken are going to suck next year." He was like, "Have your fun with this playoff run, but they're going to suck next year." And I didn't believe it. They don't look like they're very good. They're not scoring with the tenacity that they did last season. Their goaltending once again is a problem. Their PK is a problem. So like I think the the Kraken could be a one-hit wonder at this point in time. So I wouldn't say that they're thrown off by the Canucks being good. I don't even think that. I think the discussion is wrong here. It's not the Canucks throwing the division off. It's the Ducks. The Ducks being good is throwing the division off because I think the Canucks are a good team. We talked about it earlier. Like they have the pieces in place. They've just kind of been a dysfunctional organization, and we've been waiting for them to snap out of it. They seem to be snapping out of it this season. The Ducks are just way ahead of schedule, and I don't think it's going to sustain for all that much longer. And I think we'll see some order restored to the Pacific Division.
That's anti-Italian discrimination.
Maybe.
So you think the biggest disruptor in the Pacific Division is
by far the Ducks more than the Canucks.
Ducks. But the question is, like, I guess it depends on how for real and to stay you think they are. Like, if you think that the Ducks are a flash in the pan and they're going to come back down to earth, possibly miss the playoffs, they don't end up being that big of a disruptor. I think we both agree the Canucks are locked in, and it, at the very least, I think will be a top 3 finisher in the Pacific.
Yeah, but I guess it all comes down to the definition of disruptor, I guess, because like I think that the Canucks being good is more predictable. And I feel like if you're a disruptor, it's an unpredictable outcome to disrupt. Like the spoiler role has to come from somebody where you're like, nobody saw this shit coming.
Yeah.
And I think the Canucks are we're just kind of due. And I mean, we haven't even mentioned Rick Tocchet, but like Rick Tocchett's impact on that Canucks team has been immeasurable because he's restored order. And I know a lot of people were critical of that hiring because like, oh, they hired the guy from TV. Oh, that'll fix it. That ought to do it. And I think there was like some of that from me last year. I was like, why are they fucking hiring Rick Tocchet? But I mean, obviously the results are there. That team's playing hard. That team looks really strong. The Canucks for real.
We also haven't mentioned the Flames, who are like right in the range of the teams that we're talking about with the Oilers and the Kraken. They're smack dab in the middle.
I think the Flames could have been disruptors. Like if the Flames turned it on, that they could hit disruptor status because people like their roster might be good, but that team was falling apart at the seams over the summer. Everybody wanted out. I still think that like that a lot of them want out, but you know that's Calgary is a team that could have easily been disruptor or like dysfunctional.
Unless I'm doing my math wrong here, and I don't think I am, the Kraken have the second worst goal differential in the NHL.
It's pretty bad.
So if ever there were a team in this group that is kind of fake and bad, it is the Kraken. Who do you think has the worst goal differential in the NHL?
The worst goal differential in the NHL?
So the Kraken,
probably the team that lost like 20-3 at some point.
The Kraken have a minus 19 goal differential. There are a few teams who have minus 14 goal differentials, such as the Wild and the Blue Jackets. What do you think the Sharks' goal differential is?
How many games have they played?
They have played 16. This is an outrageous number.
It is, or
so
isn't?
19 is the second worst.
Okay.
Minus 19, negative 19.
42.
The Sharks have a minus 51 goal differential. That is unbelievably bad for a team that we know is by far the worst team in the NHL.
Yeah, that's a pretty stunning number, even for a team that we know lost with a goal differential of minus 17 over 2 games.
My God. The MLB owners have approved the Oakland A's relocation to Vegas. So apologies to any Bay Area
Tough time.
sports fans. It stinks.
Specifically Oakland. Like, you've lost 2 teams in a very short period of time. I guess 3 if you want to count the Golden State Warriors.
Which is why the Sharks will be off limits for this next exercise. Which NHL team would you move and to where?
I would move the Carolina Hurricanes to Hartford because they just want to be the Hartford Whalers all the time.
No, I think you need the. So
I say that
we're hopefully gonna do stuff with the Hurricanes at some point. I hate the Hurricanes, like, and I hate the Hurricanes. Like, I'm glad you're there. If you've ever listened to any of my and Pete's other work, the name Jordan will mean something to you. It's a person in my fantasy football league who I don't know. Nobody in the league knows. He's a friend of a friend who has since left the league, and he hates us. We all hate him. All of our communication is, shut up, Jordan. Why are you in this league? You're so annoying. We all hate you. And he hates us so much. I would hate my life if Jordan left this fantasy league. That's how I hate the Hurricanes. Like, if they were gone, hockey wouldn't be the same to me.
That's a good point. And like,
They're a necessary
I said
evil.
that mainly to fuck with Hurricanes fans who are amongst the most sensitive in the league, and I love them for that. I love how passionate they are. They do love that team, so respect. But I like messing with them a lot.
You know what they are? They're a necessary nuisance.
Correct. And like you said, I think it's good for the Hurricanes to have a team and a fan base that everybody kind of hates.
Yeah.
And that you can't really explain. Like, when the Heat culture court came out, where they had like a fucking novel in the paint, somebody posed the question, like, which NHL team would do this? It was basically unanimous that the Hurricanes would be that team.
The word Hurricanes was trending on Twitter
Right.
as a result of that question being asked.
So I mean, I do love the Hurricanes being in the NHL. I just needed to throw that out there. I would say I would move the Florida Panthers to Fort Lauderdale, which is right down the road.
I was going to say, I would move them to
They're
Miami.
in Fort Lauderdale.
I would move them.
Goofball.
They're not.
No,
They're in Sunrise.
They're in Sunrise, which isn't really. It's like close to Fort Lauderdale.
So have you been?
Yeah, I sure have. It takes 40 minutes to get from Fort Lauderdale to Sunrise.
It takes like 11 minutes.
I think. I know it's far from
I've
Miami.
been a bunch of times.
I know it's far from Miami, which
when I went to the All-Star game, it took 40 minutes to get from Fort Lauderdale to Sunrise.
Really?
Yes.
We'll have to look. Maybe I'm misremembering. I've been there a bunch of times, and I would stay.
Nice enough arena. Like, I think that people dump on the arena. The arena's fine.
Arena's
It's
fine. The shopping
location.
center nearby is great. I forget the name of it, but it's awesome. I used to hit that Banana Republic factory store all the time.
You know that it's not like 10 minutes from Fort Lauderdale, because if it was 10 minutes from Fort Lauderdale, they wouldn't have those attendance problems.
Yeah, I know. The big problem with it is that it's far from Miami, which is like, that's what I was going to say. Florida and Ottawa for that exact same reason. Like, put the arenas in the actual city that they play in.
Correct.
And
like,
alternatively, the Colorado Avalanche, move it somewhere within 3 hours of the airport, because the Denver airport is the worst airport in America.
well, you don't want to move the team. You want to move the airport.
Well,
The airport is very far away
seems
from
harder
Denver.
to move than an arena. So I
Also,
was
the
just like,
Denver airport is one of the worst airports in
Oh, it's
America.
awful. No,
it's
it's awful.
insane.
I mean, just it could be the nicest airport in America, but the fact that it's 10 hours away from civilization makes it the worst airport in America.
They also have all gates go through security in the same grand lobby.
Oh my God.
And their TSA pre-check only operates like on business hours. Their TSA pre-check is open like 9 to 5,
And then
which is the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
You throw
Okay,
all the
so-
conspiration theory stuff on top of it.
Yeah,
The tunnels.
Yeah,
and
right.
Yeah, the murals.
So 18 minutes from Sunrise to Fort Lauderdale, or vice versa,
No traffic?
with traffic as bad as 55 minutes.
Exactly.
So I think that you get the edge there on
Okay.
me saying it's 10 minutes, because when you say it's 10 minutes, you have to max out at it being like 23 minutes with traffic.
Right.
So all right, that's not bad, and it makes me feel better about my short move, because I would move the Dallas Stars 3 hours down the road to Austin.
Hell yeah.
And I've been to Dallas and I've been to Austin, both fine places. Austin is an absolute blast. I think that if it were, correct me if I'm wrong, Stars fans, if it were in Austin, you would still make the trip every now and then to go to Austin games. And so many people in Austin, weirdos, would go to, like, the sports scene in Austin is great. They go crazy for the Verde down there.
We're famously Longhorns guys.
Right. They obviously love their college football, but that's a thing in the South anyway,
Right.
where like teams like college football instead of professional sports. There's at least proof with the Verde in Austin that Austin cares about professional sports. So it would be sick.
I've always said
if you
that
had the Stars
if
there.
Austin had a team, I would very much consider moving to Austin.
First, you've always said it.
I have.
I know.
Been saying it for years.
I just love saying I've always.
When I was
said
11 years old, I was like, I will move to Austin if they get an NHL team.
You know the scene in About Time where he meets his wife and he's like, I always used to worry about whatever. And he says something small. She's like, you always used to worry about that? That's crazy that you always used to worry about it. Anyway, Austin, hockey in Austin would be great. First time I went to Austin, I went to Stubbs Barbecue where Ben Folds was playing, took in a concert, and then after, I was like, you know what? Stanley Cup Final is on. I'd like to get to a bar and watch that. And as I left and I was walking to 6th Street, there were so many people in Blackhawks jerseys.
Really?
They were going out to the bar to watch hockey. And I was like, this is a hockey town. I love this place.
I feel like that's the thing about a lot of southern towns that people don't think about is that most of the people there are not from there. Like that's the thing in Arizona. Like it's a lot of people like hockey because everyone's from fucking Chicago and stuff like that.
Do they have the Texas Stars?
Oh, good question. Let's see.
Where are the Texas Stars located? Is that Austin?
Fort Lauderdale.
There's a team in San Antonio, right?
I believe so. Is that the
or at least there was a
Texas Stars are in Cedar Park, Texas, which is near Austin.
Okay, gotcha. My final relocation idea is move the Minnesota Wild to Atlanta because I want Atlanta to get another hockey team, and I feel like Minnesota, it's a great hockey state. Of course, it's the state of hockey, but I think they've taken advantage of having an NHL team. They just fucking haven't done anything with it.
That's the thing. As soon as you said that, I was like, I know where you're going with this because there's this unsaid thing that we say a lot to each other of just like, something's off there. Like,
right.
Why isn't it more interesting?
Right.
And I've been to, I love Minneapolis. I know they're in St. Paul, I think, but they're twin cities.
Correct.
So they're close by. Why isn't that the coolest and best thing in the world?
Why is that not a hotbed? Why aren't people clamoring to go there? I feel like
they got to unplug it and plug it back in.
Exactly. That was my point. Like I want Minnesota to eventually get a team back, but I think we got to take it away from them for a few years and give Atlanta another shot and let Minnesota kind of think about what they lost. I know that they've already lost one, and so like you kind of have to do it all over again. Plug them, unplug them, plug them back in. Plus, like the Wild have an astounding lack of identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're a boring team. They got boring branding, boring jerseys. They gotta figure it out. And maybe it's like the Jack Campbell situation with like the AHL, where it's like maybe you just sit him out for like a couple weeks, a month or something. Let him get right, and let him kind of reassess and come back fresh.
No Wild games for a month.
No Wild games for like a year and a half.
Like multiple years. I don't know who I'm moving, but I want to move another team to New York City because I like a lot of players on the Rangers. I like a lot of people who work for the Rangers even. I love New York City. There's like this romantic thing about New York City and hockey and even Madison Square Garden. James Dolan sucks.
Oh, he's the worst.
James Dolan sucks. And whether it was the Tom Wilson thing of a couple years ago where he just like fired the organization because he had this really weird reaction to something that wasn't that bad and his employees had to apologize for him and then he fired them for apology. Like they were trying to, like if I'm being out of control, and I mean, I don't drink, but like say we're out and I'm drunk and I'm acting a fucking fool and you know that hey, like he's got a good heart. He's not that bad. Like, sorry, I don't know what's going on with him or whatever. It would be like if I stopped being friends with you for telling people like
at your worst
hey,
moment,
I'm
being
sorry,
like, he's not like this.
Like he's clearly going through something. He's freaking out right now. But James Dolan is so sensitive, and
he's essentially like the Elon Musk of the NHL.
He ruins the Rangers for me, and I love the Rangers branding. Everything about
the Rangers
I
should
love.
be like the coolest team in the league.
They deserve so much better than James Dolan. And I will also note, maybe this is a little biased, teams are lining up to do stuff with us. It's amazing. The only team that when we've sent stuff out to them that has immediately said no, and I don't think it's their fault, has been the Rangers. I think that they're like, ugh.
The Rangers are tough to work with. I assume that James Dolan is a horrible boss. He's a sensitive baby. I hate that guy. And
it sucks that his music's so good.
Oh, don't even get me started on that.
I separate the art from the artist.
Oh no, him tricking people into attending a concert of his with his fake ass band at MSG is one of like the lowest and most embarrassing things I've ever heard.
You know who that sucks for more than anybody?
Everybody in the band?
Wrong. Me. Because I am somebody who doesn't have as much money as James Dolan, arguably, or as much notoriety as him. But for all, I use the term hobby rocker. For all hobby rockers, that is their worst fear, where everybody's like, we're not interested in hearing this guy play music, but it seems to mean a lot to him, so we guess we'll put up with it. If I'm playing music anywhere or if I make any music, I'm so afraid that it is consumed and treated the same way of like, DJ did a music thing because he wanted to, and we didn't ask for it. But DJ is in our lives for some goddamn reason, so I guess this is just part of our life.
Well, I'll tell you what, there is popular demand for Vineyard Nights too, so people want it. Yeah, Dolan, just fucking
Dolan gets me down, man.
I can't imagine being a billionaire and caring about anything. Not like. Never mind caring about everything and being a little baby back bitch about it.
Whoa.
That guy sucks. So I'm for sure cool with taking the Rangers away from him.
So we're relocating the Rangers.
Yes.
So the loser in all of it, they already have to put up with a horrible owner.
I'm relocating the Rangers to a different team for a different owner.
I'm giving Michael Andlauer.
Yes.
I'm cloning Michael Andlauer and relocating him to the Rangers. If he could take over the Rangers, they'd be my favorite team in the world.
Hell yes.
Because
I agree with that.
Like their jerseys, we own Rangers jerseys.
Love Rangers jerseys.
And we were just at Madison Square Garden taking in 1975 show, which was a lovely time. But as we were walking around, we're like, man, this is so awesome. Except for like, there's like a James Dolan.
Yeah, except I'm in James Dolan's house.
Yeah, it's like we were looking at those banners. Got Billy Joel, Harry Styles, the greats.
I can't believe they have a Harry Styles. They have a Harry Styles banner at MSG because he played, I believe, 16 straight shows.
Yeah,
just 16 consecutive. Anybody could do that.
Well, I think
congrats on showing up to work for 16 straight days.
Do you know what the original banner of that was? There's a Billy Joel live album from 2006, I want to say, called 12 Gardens.
Yeah.
He played the Garden 12 times in a row, and it was like national news. They were like, could you believe this old guy keeps playing the Garden? He's out of his mind. Billy Joel is off his rocker. And it's like, if you follow Billy Joel's career, there are other cases where he's been like,
he drove into a house.
This is not him being off his rocker. He is doing great right now. But they had a banner for him. And now they have a bunch of banners up there because I think that they don't want to make him feel bad. They're putting up other banners.
Fish has a banner.
What's that?
It was Fish that had a banner,
Fish had a banner. Yeah.
My favorite music-related banner in the NHL was the Taylor Swift banner at Staples Center.
Because they took it down.
Because they took it down. They had a Taylor Swift banner probably a handful of years ago, and they just kept losing games at Staples Center. And Kings fans were like, listen, this team hasn't stopped losing since you put up this Taylor Swift banner. Take it down. And the team got bullied into taking it down, and I love that.
All right. Well, our 3 stars are, we each give James Dolan all 3 of ours. What a cool owner. Incredible guy. We've had a great week on this show. Thanks to Linus Olmark and Jeremy Swayman, everybody who has consumed and shared our stuff. If you haven't, please subscribe on YouTube and give us the 5 stars. There was some media thing that got put out recently on like a month into the season or whatever. What are the biggest podcasts? And we were ranked number 3, which was great. Spit and Chicklets beat us twice.
I know.
Which shout out those guys.
Fuck you,
I
Grinnell.
did say to Grinnell, I was like, it cancels each other out. If you beat us twice, then did you really beat us at all?
I do want to say Biz sent us a text yesterday saying that he was very excited that we were doing the show. And he's just like the nicest guy.
Grinnell's
ever.
also been super supportive.
Yeah, so
I don't have Whitney's contact
where you at,
information.
Whitney?
Yeah.
So I love those guys.
Do you think Whitney...
Happy to lose them once, maybe not twice.
Do you think Whitney has heard of this podcast? Zero chance.
I don't know. We're an Oilers podcast, and he was an ex-Oilers
true.
man.
He's an Oilers, but I mean, he rocks. I hope he's...
I love Whit, so I love all those guys.
Yeah.
Even you, RA.
Yeah, I was going to say, RA. I saw him recently. He was so nice to me. Anyway, y'all are so nice to us. We love you. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Linus. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks,
See you
everybody.
next week. Subscribe to the YouTube. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. It'll be a short week next week, but we've got some good stuff.
More monster content, including some active NHL legends, plural.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, now.
Together.
Bye. Talk to you later.
We all silly like the mayor.